You guys, I was gonna say this when you went off stage, but I'll say it while you're on here. Seeing this happen up close and seeing what they do makes me want to send like a 2-minute tape to all up-and-coming bands and say, if you want a career, you don't have to play like this, but have the skills like this and the writing and the performance, and maybe you can do 8 albums or more. That was awesome, man.
Well, thanks. Thank you. I would actually recommend that young bands learn to play far better than us. So.
I don't think that's true at all. Most important question of the day, probably. The Seahawks have not won a game. Will they win 10? Will they win? He loves, he's from Seattle. He loves the Seahawks and the Mariners. How many games will they win?
I'm going to say 9.
Will that get them into the playoffs?
No, it will not.
It will not. Ooh.
But hey, I like to kind of aim low and then be pleasantly surprised. That's what 39 years of being a Mariners fan has told me.
Got it.
And we're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and we're going all off book. Nick, this is a fun show to play, something this close when people are just like...
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
Nice.
And this room is amazing, yeah. It's
the
first
great.
time in here.
I love this place.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm exhausted listening to Death Cab albums because the lyrics and the music, no, I mean this in a complimentary way, because there's so much emotion by it, and I have always thought this, and I've always wanted to ask, and since I'm lucky enough to have a mic, I'm asking you face to face. Do you ever feel like after you make an album, you're like Rocky Balboa, I'm done, no rematch. I'm done making it. It was exhausting. I don't know if I can throw this all out again.
No, but I think kind of like there's definitely a recoil period where I don't really do any writing, and I kind of don't. I'm a firm believer in like input and output time creatively. There's time when you're supposed to be making things, and there's time where you're supposed to be observing. And some people are able to do both at the same time. I tend to not be like that. I tend to just kind of need to take some time away from working on music to kind of let the record we just finished kind of just simmer and then move on to what the next thing is going to be.
And growing up where you did, what led you down the path to make the kind of music you do? Because I imagine you were somewhere in your formative years of your getting your taste in music when Soundgarden was there and Nirvana, and you could. I mean, I would think, if you're a young kid, let's do that. But what led you down this path, which is a great, great path?
I think that both of us probably took more cues from just the ethics of music in the Northwest than the actual sound. I mean, I think that when we were kids, there was a period before the internet where you were so isolated. You didn't really, you just thought that whatever music was on TV, on MTV at the time. That was like that you'd watch, some garbage hair metal band on MTV, and you think, well, that's I can't do that. I don't look like that, so I'll never be able to play music. That's what you have to do. And then you discover punk rock, and you discover underground music, and you see, the bands loading their gear into the own club and setting it up, and you're talking to them afterwards. They're selling their own T-shirts that they made themselves, and you think like, oh my God, we can do this too. And for me, I think both of us went to so many shows in Seattle when we were kids. And Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, all those amazing bands that were taking over the world were doing that on like an arena level. But there was all this stuff happening at the grassroots that we were going out and seeing, and bands that kind of influenced us and kind of taught us how to do it.
And Nick, what do you remember about some of your? We're going way back here, but I'm curious. Some of your first get-togethers, like, let's see if we can create something here. How great, stinky in between was it?
I mean, I'd known Ben for years before we actually started playing music together. I mean, in Death Cab for Cutie, we were in some smaller bands, I guess, at the time, and we'd play music in our living room together now and again. But I think that very first Death Cab practice, thankfully we had a roadmap Ben had already made. You can play these songs with chords, and it was sort of like, here's some songs, let's figure out how to do this together. And when we first got in the room together, it's kind of one of those moments that you just feel like, wait a minute, this is going way better than any band I've ever been in, like right away.
We just sounded, I'm not saying this for a laugh, but we just sounded good.
Yeah.
We were all in bands before that, like, you practice and practice and practice,
yeah.
like, why are we not sounding any better?
Yeah.
And then from the first practice, like, we sounded better than any band I'd ever been in before, and it was just kind of like, oh, well, that's when you know something is really happening.
Yeah.
And then back to that T-shirt thing, selling your own shirts at shows. Do you remember the first shirts you made? And did you ever think, we have 100 shirts. No one's going to buy these damn things. How did that go?
Well, actually, that kind of, yes, and that kind of backfired on us a couple times because when we were first doing it, we thought, like, you know what, we're going to make our own like, we're literally going to screen the T-shirts ourselves. We're going to make them ourselves because we thought we could save money doing that. Yeah. And, I mean, really, it's like you save like 50 cents a shirt by doing it. And it's so labor-intensive. It's really hard. Yeah. But we went on a tour where we made like 100 shirts, and we failed to, like, when you silk screen a shirt, you have to, like,
heat set the ink.
Otherwise it'll wash out.
We've skipped that step.
So we like made 100 shirts, didn't set the ink, and then we would show back up like later, like a year later in that town, and somebody would show up with a blank shirt and be like, "What the fuck?" And then we'd have to like give them a new shirt.
That is a backfire.
Yeah, it was. And then we realized, like, wait a minute, it costs $4.50 a shirt to make them ourselves. It costs $5 to have a professional make them. Right. Let's spend that extra 50 cents and not have shirts hanging all over the apartment.
Yeah. That's awesome. Someone yelled out about LA, but you have a song, Ghosts of Beverly Drive. You mentioned the 405 in a song. You recorded the latest album in LA. You spent a lot of time in Los Angeles.
Sure, yeah.
Has the city grown on you, or do you use this city for recording purposes or influence, or do you actually like it here?
There are some things I really like about it, and if there's one thing that I never ceases to kind of interest me about Los Angeles is that, you have great success and great failure kind of coming in contact with each other all the time, and those take very different they take different forms, but I think that it's a really fascinating place, And it's a desert. No one should live here, But millions upon millions of people do, and somehow it works. And it always seems like it's teetering on the edge of just collapse. But so far, it hasn't happened. So, but that having said that, the New Yorker recently predicted that Seattle was going to crumble into Elliott Bay with a giant earthquake. So you never know. Yeah. Nowhere is permanent. Nothing is permanent. Right. You just kind of have to live every day and enjoy it.
Hey, when you first got the Foo Fighters were just in town, when you first got the call from I guess probably, I don't know if it was Dave Grohl or a manager, or they sent you a Yahoo message, whatever, to be part of...
Hotmail.
Hotmail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They contacted you on
AOL
Friendster.
Online.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be part of Sonic Highways, your reaction was, that's cool, or I'm nervous, I for sure want to do this. What was your thought when you were approaching?
Oh, yeah, I was, wherever you need me, man, I'll do it. Like, I mean, we've played some shows with those guys, and they are as cool as everybody, as the image they project of themselves. There's like sometimes you meet people and you're like, yeah, they have this public image of being really cool, but then we hung out and they're kind of not great. But those guys are all amazing, and they're all like just super funny with each other, really great people to hang out with, and Dave, as you can imagine, is just a character. And so I was, man, whatever you need me. Like, we shot some stuff here in LA, we shot some stuff in Seattle. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. But it was also just really strange, kind of sitting there talking to Dave about Nirvana, because I sometimes, the Foo Fighters have had such a legacy to this point that, I sometimes forget that he was in Nirvana. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Foo Fighters have been a band for what, 20 years? Over 20 years? 20
yeah,
more?
Exactly.
95, I think, the
yes,
first one
20
came out.
years. So, but then talking with him about Kurt and about Nirvana was there was a moment where it just hit me, like, I'm talking to the guy who was in this band that lost this, we all lost this unbelievably talented person when Kurt killed himself. But, he was affected in ways that I can't even imagine. And it was just really a powerful moment.
Wow. Nick, when you were growing up, was Nirvana, did you know of them well? Had you seen them?
Yeah, I can't say that I saw them at their first shows. I was definitely underage when they were playing bars and things.
You could lie about that, though. No,
I could, yeah.
No Brian Williams in here, okay?
I mean, we lived in the world at that time, obviously, pre-internet, when cassettes were being dubbed and things were being handed around. And I remember the first time I listened to Bleach, I guess at the time, someone gave me a tape with Bleach on one side and Soundgarden on the other, and I was just blown away that this was coming from Seattle. Like Ben had said, the music seemed like it happened someplace else, and then suddenly it was at home, and just took a lot of pride in that. I remember going and visiting family in Idaho and other places and being like, this is what's happening in my city, and that band had a massive impact on my life musically, and like Ben said, sort of even just ethically, and how they approached everything really, really mattered, and still matters. I think we're all still, affected by their legacy and what they accomplished at that point. So.
And we were also teenagers at that time, so we
Yeah.
weren't jaded. It's like there was no like. I think if we were older and in the scene, and
Yeah.
these like like shit kickers from Aberdeen got super famous, there might be like a what, those guys really? But we were teenagers. We were just like oh man, they're from the Northwest. They're from Aberdeen. They're from Seattle. These bands from Seattle. It's like when you're a kid and you're trying to find kind of create a sense of identity for yourself, and then all of a sudden the world is looking at the town that you ostensibly are from, and getting excited about what's happening there musically. It makes you feel really proud that you're just at least peripherally by geography alone, a part of it.
Did you have the same pride in Sir Mix-a-Lot, who's from Seattle?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Larry is the white
No,
guy.
I'm
People
not-
think
no,
he's
I'm dead
funny.
serious.
No, I love
he's
Sir
the-
Mix-a-Lot.
He's the best, man.
Yeah.
Like I mean, honestly, like I've in the last like 15, 17 years of this band, I've never asked anybody else for a photo except for Sir Mix-a-Lot. I have never, like, we did this thing, we did like I guess it was like 4 years ago, the Hawks were in the playoffs, and the city had a bunch of musicians raise the 12-man flag on the Space Needle, which was crazy because we were like up on top, like the top of the Space Needle.
Right.
And Sir Mix-a-Lot was there, and it was like, I was just so nervous, and I was like, oh my God, like I like got a photo with Mix-a-Lot, because we were listening to Swass like when we were like 12, 13,
Absolutely.
and love that guy.
Still.
Yeah,
He
still love
represents
that
your
stuff.
city great, just like you guys do.
Yeah, well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
He's a legend, so we're it was like, yeah, but I was really nervous when I met him. I was like, oh, it's Sir Mix-a-Lot.
All right, last two things. Number one, for those of you that are watching at home, there will be a replay of this whole event for 24 hours on Red Bull TV and KROQ.com. And we're going to end with this. Ben, if you're up for this, we've never done this before in here. And if you succeed, the interview's over. If you don't, the interview will also be over.
right.
But this is a baseball mitt and a ball and a baseball. We're going to clear this out. We have never had a first pitch in here.
Okay.
I'm going to go down there.
All right.
You're throwing the first pitch. When it's a strike, I come say goodbye with when that we're
Okay.
done right,
All right,
there.
okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Death Cab for Cutie. Time for this first pitch. Clear out that part, by the way. Yeah, I'm gonna go down there, and if we could turn up the lights, because
crucial.
if I get smacked, I'm not wearing a cup either today. Hello. Okay, so clear this here. Someone's Red Bull right there. Do you want to use a baseball or tennis ball? You can use baseball. Baseball. Okay. You guys, I wouldn't stand behind me, because remember, I'm a radio guy. I don't know how to do anything. Okay. No, you can. All right. Is this far enough? Okay. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. Hold on one sec. Do you want to practice throw or no? Okay. Can someone hold the mic for me, sir? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, throwing out the first pitch. Pitch. At the KROQ Red Bull Sound Space. Ben. Gibbard.